You don't get anything in life for free. You don't deserve shit. There's no such thing as karma. There's no such thing as fate. There's no such thing as destiny. There is plausibility, probability, and actuality, and everything else is just lazy math.
This is the Gem Podcast, and this is Kwok.
Yo, we are back with another episode of the Gem Podcast. Today, I'm here with one of my friends and mentors, Michael Sartain, Millionaire options trader, charity event host, served in the military, portfolio manager of a hedge fund, and a social circle expert. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Whenever I get introduced for these podcasts, I'm always like, man, did I do all those things? It always seems crazy whenever I hear all that stuff. But yeah, it's good. It's good to talk to you, man. You told me the other day you had a podcast, and I was like, hey, I want to do that.
Yeah, I really want to have you on, man. Like, you have a very interesting life story, and you have a very interesting lifestyle in general. I feel like the audience will get a lot of value from this. So, yeah, right now we're in Las Vegas, Nevada, and Michael Sartain has been living here for how many years?
I moved here in August of 2011. So I got out of the military in February 2011. I moved here in August, and I was living part-time here and part-time in LA.
So for like those who might not know your story, like take us back a little bit, like your childhood and like a bit of your upbringing.
So I grew up my mother was she immigrated to the United States from 1974 from Colombia. She got a nursing degree in Colombia, then got another one in the United States. Well, you remember in the 70s we had a shortage of nurses. Actually, I think she came before that, maybe 71, 72 she came. We're still in Vietnam at that point. So several medical professionals have gone either into the military or deployed. So there was a shortage of nurses in the United States, so she got to come to the U.S., got her green card. She met my dad, I want to say maybe, 73. Got married in 74. They met at a wedding. And then I was born in 77. They moved back to Dallas. And I grew up in this kind of strange neighborhood where, you know how public school districts will have like a good side of town, a bad side of town, or whatever. It was one of these situations where I lived in a neighborhood called Lakewood, but I went to a high school called Woodrow Wilson, which is in kind of a bad part of town, right? But it was still in my district. So I lived by a lake. It was nice. Then I would go to school, and we were the first school to have metal detectors. We had school shootings. There were 4 I specifically remember when I was there at my high school. Vice principal went to jail for embezzlement. We had drug dealers, it was such a unique experience because I just remember our teachers didn't give a shit about us. I remember like anything I was curious about, I had to go find out about it on my own. And I just, whenever I would watch things like Saved by the Bell, I was like, God, or Beverly Hills 90210 or something like that. I was like, that's what high school is like for people? Like, are you fucking kidding? That's what it's like? Because for me, it wasn't like that. For me, it was like gang fights every fucking day. And like, it was terrible. Like, do people like vandalizing my car and, huge fights. And we didn't have any money for our football team. One other high school bought our high school all of our wrestling shoes because we didn't have any money. And I just remember like when I would see other people's high school experience, I was like, that's incredible to me that high school was like fun for you. Really? It was fun? That's fucking crazy. Because it was not fun. Now, my friends from high school I'm still friends with. I'd say probably a few of my friends from high school have passed away. I'd say maybe 6 to 10 of them went to jail at some point for selling drugs. It was pretty bad. And then our graduation rate, my freshman class had 1,500 students, and we graduated 136. I don't think the high school had ever graduated 200 people before. We had a dropout rate that was somewhere in the 80%. Like, people don't understand what like public schools were like in Dallas, Texas. They're horrible. Like, there's been just complete waste of money. So it was one of these situations where like I still wanted to challenge myself. I remember teachers like passing out the answers to tests and all this kind of stuff. And but here's the thing. So I studied. I got into all AP classes, and I got accepted to the University of Texas at Austin, the Cox School of Business. And I go there, and it's like I can tell I'm smart enough to be here, but I can also tell that these kids have a work ethic that is 100 times better than mine because I didn't have to study in high school, right? And so I had trouble in my first couple of classes when I went to college, when I graduated. And I remember like hardly anyone graduated. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Like all my friends that were not in my AP classes, almost none of them graduated from high school. They all ended up getting GEDs. And Vernell, who comes on my Monday show, he went to high school with me. He was the tailback. I played tight end on the football team. So I go to college and I'm just overwhelmed. Like these people are studying so much harder than me. Like they actually have study ethic. They know what they're doing. What's a tutor, bro? I've never heard of a fucking tutor. What's a tutor, bro? Calculus, ready? We got to study derivatives. It says here on your high school transcript that you passed algebra, and I was like, well, I mean that's what it says, but like I don't remember. My teacher was drunk. Like I don't think she remembered, teaching us shit. And so I remember that first semester I failed business calculus, and then afterwards I studied my ass off. I tried as hard as I could, and I found this incredible elective, Astronomy 101. And every elective I took from that point forward. So I had a science class I had to take, and I tried to minor in astronomy. Officially, I do not have a minor in astronomy. I have the credits for a minor in astronomy, but the business school at UT Austin would not let you get a minor outside of the business school. So I don't actually have a minor in astronomy. I just read about it a lot. Yeah. So every time I had a free course that I could take to get to my limit, any elective or any natural science, I was taking upper division astronomy, and I was a business student. And I remember the professors were so confused. They were like, so what, which one of you guys are getting your master's? Who's going into physics? Who's going into whatever? And I was like, I'm a business major. And they're like, how? That doesn't make any sense. Like there's no business majors taking 305 courses, right? So I remember I wrote a long paper on relativity and all this kind of stuff. And I was considering switching majors when I just learned how much people who graduate with astronomy degrees make, and I was like, nah, I can't do that. I got to stick with MIS. So I have a degree in Management Information Systems from the University of Texas at Austin. Then Enron and MCI WorldCom went out of business. Do you remember this? You might be too young to remember this. The company called Enron, based out of Houston, they traded energy futures. And what they would do, just as a kind of a simple way to explain it, they would take all of their debts, all their liabilities, and they would sell them off to separate companies, to shell companies, right? And then they would just show assets on the balance sheet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Stock price would go up. They were the main people who hired kids out of the business school at University of Texas at Austin. They went bankrupt. Then also MCI WorldCom went bankrupt, and then one of the big accounting firms, I don't know if it was Arthur Andersen or which one it was, I forgot, one of them went under also. This all happened at the same time. So I couldn't find a job out of college, and I was going to go sell video games at GameStop. You remember GameStop,
Yeah.
right? I was going to go, and I was like, dude, I love video games. Fuck yeah, I'll sell video games. I'm like, I have a college degree. I should be able to do this. I go there. They're like, no, we're not hiring, right? 9/11 happened, or this was before 9/11. This was after the dot-com bubble, but before 9/11, right? So I couldn't find a job anywhere, and I was the head door guy at a bar in Austin called Amazon Shot Bar. It's on 6th Street in Austin. And it's if you in the movie that show The Real World Austin, it's like one of the bars they go to all the time. There's a big fucking tree in the middle of it, and I was the head door guy there. One of the bartenders, really pretty girl. She actually has her PhD from John Jay University in New York in forensic psychology. She's worked for the police department. She was a stripper though. That's how she paid to go through college. She was a stripper and went to UT. And she was like, "Hey, the strip club that I work at, they need a DJ." And I was a DJ at this club also. I was also security, and I was a DJ. And I went there to try out one day. I was there for an hour, freaked out. I was fucking up the first first 5, 10, 15 minutes. And then after that, I just got it. And I ended up working in a strip club for 3 years and 8 months.
Wow.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was one of these things where I was like, I'm going to do this for 6 months. And then I'm going to go get an IT job because that's what my degree's in. And then guess what happened to all my friends in the IT industry? They all got fired, right? Everyone at the bottom started getting fired because the Enron, now they lose all their people. Now there's a bunch of good people out there. So these other accounting firms and IT firms, they take those good people, they fire the lowest people on the totem pole. All my friends are like, they're literally sitting in the strip club I work at. I'm giving them dollar beers. They're fired. They got severance packages. They don't have a job anymore. And I'm like, well, I can't stop working at the strip club. And I come to work one day, and I was watching a replay. In my mind, I was there watching it live, but obviously it wasn't live because it wouldn't have been, the time doesn't match up. But I watched 9/11 happen at the strip club. It's an expose. It's gone now. It's on Congress Avenue in Austin. It's gone now. It's the strip club. I remember watching it, and at first, when the first plane hit the first tower, thinking that it was like, that's horrible what happened, but like, how stupid is this? Because I don't know if you know this, but a B-52 had actually crashed into the Empire State Building back in the 50s or 60s. Happened a long time ago. And I was like, oh, maybe this is something like that. Maybe it's a military operation, go fly by, whatever. The second one hit, I kind of realized this is an act of terrorism. And I just remember thinking, holy shit, this is crazy. Right when that happens, two of my fraternity brothers, they joined the military. Antonio Edwards, Major Antonio Edwards, he passed away last month, actually, from sarcoidosis. He joined and became an EA-6B navigator in the Marine Corps. And then Marcus Cole became a, whatever the C-130 variant is for the Navy. I forgot what it's called, but he was a C-130 pilot. And then I became a KC-135 navigator. We all joined around the same time. It took me a year and 4 months to get in, because everyone was trying to join the military. We just saw 9/11. Everyone was trying to jump in at the same time. And I was trying to go in as an officer. I asked them to be an intelligence officer, and they made me a KC-135 navigator. And then 7 years of flying combat missions over Iraq and Afghanistan after that. That's all I did. And it was just, the math was just, it was just math for me. I mean, we might have gotten shot at like twice, but it's really hard to shoot down a fucking airplane that's that big and fast. The main danger when I was in the military was a co-pilot killing. The co-pilot is always trying to kill you. Like, for anybody out there who's listening, if you ever join the military, the co-pilot is always trying to kill you, right? So
I feel like you have some stories behind that.
Mm-hmm. Dude, co-pilot's landing like off the runway, like the main gear's off in the grass. One co-pilot, the gear's not even down. Like, co-pilot, co-nav, we need to put the gear down. It's a kind of a caveat. We crossed the Sinai Peninsula, and we're leaving, I think it was either Rota, Spain, or Mildenhall in England. I can't remember. We're crossing we're going to Iraq. We're going over the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt, and we cross right into Iraq. And as soon as we do it, I was like, hey, man, take a picture of me. So I'm holding up my Longhorn sign, like holding up my horns or whatever. I sit down, and the fire starts in the cockpit. I've been in Iraq for 45 minutes, and there's a fire in the cockpit. Airplane drops 200 feet. I put the oxygen mask on. I'm about to piss myself. I don't know. Did we get shot? Is this a rapid depressurization? What's going on? Well, the airplane was a 1957 model Boeing 707 converted to a KC-135 Stratotanker. The airplane is 50 years old, right? At this point, I guess it would have been, 50 years old. This would have been 2006, so 49 years old. And the pilots just look around and they're like laughing at me. They're like, yeah, there's fires in the cockpit all the time. It's like, just took the fire extinguisher, put out the fire, just sit there in your 49-year-old airplane. Like the seat belts are the only thing that were original. The seat belts were actually from the Korean War. Like, that's how old and ragged. It's crazy, man. I just did that for 7 years, and then I became a planning officer. I got a bunch of air medals. Being a navigator is a good gig. I'm not going to lie. Like, it was one of the most fun things I ever did, because it was math, right? I have to figure out how to get one aircraft next to for those of you who do not understand what a KC-135 is, we give fuel to other airplanes in the air. So while I'd be flying, I'd be flying in the KC-135, a B-2 or a B-52 or F-15 or F-16 or any other Air Force aircraft will come up and get fuel out of the back of our airplane in the air. So we have to be going the same airspeed, same direction at the same place. Does that make sense? Yeah. We almost like going on a racetrack together, these different spots over Iraq and Afghanistan. So I would be in contact with the receiver, and I would set up their aerial refuelings. That's what I did. That's what the main job I did. And then once I became a senior captain, my job was to plan it for everybody else. So I would match up the tails with whatever. And then I got near the end of my career, I became counterintelligence. I started doing counterintelligence, and that's not the name of what I was doing. I don't think I can actually say the name of what my job was, but it was a counterintelligence job that I had, and I did that for a while, and that was fun. I got some awards, and that actually kind of helped me later on in life with some of the things that I do now. Just some of the lessons I learned there. And then I get out, and I was medically retired because I have an autoimmune disorder, and that was it. I got out in 2011, and then the rest of the story, I moved to Los Angeles. That's all the rest. And I lived in Abu Dhabi for a while. I lived in San Antonio. Lived in Montgomery, Alabama for a while. Altus, Oklahoma. I lived in Wichita, Kansas. Warner Robins, Georgia. I spent my 30th birthday in Eielson Air Force Base in Alaska. But yeah, it was a good time. It was more of a, I like the math. Oh, there's Kobe, my cat. Yeah, there he is.
Literally right next to us, guys.
Yeah, I rescue cats. That's the other thing I do. I forgot to mention that.
Michael Sartain has a passion for cats.
Yep.
Just putting that out there. But like, that's like, there's so many threads we could go off.
For sure,
it's
yeah.
An incredible life story, and obviously.
I guess I didn't mention this either. I was in an all-black Christian fraternity in college, and I would do step shows with them. Just almost like do the right thing, like the step shows. or that I would do those, and I'm still close to those guys. I'm not quite as fervently religious as I was back when I was 18, 19, but I still keep in contact with them. It actually had given me a very different perspective, especially when the whole George Floyd thing and the BLM thing happened. Like, I have a lot of friends who are in the military, very politically conservative, from Dallas, Texas, blah, blah, blah. And, like, I kind of have to stop them sometimes. And I'm like, because they think that I'm going to just agree with all the stuff they're saying. And I'm like, no, man, I have a lot of African-American friends, and the police don't treat them like they treat me. When I go out and I have a military ID, the police are super nice to me. When I see my black friends, when they get accosted by the police, it's quite different. So it was a very different experience for me. That's one of the reasons why I have Vernell and Maurice. Maurice Ash he's an activist, and he comes on my Monday show. But anyway, go ahead. What were you saying?
The first thing that comes to mind is when you're talking about like math. I've noticed that.
Yeah, math.
Yeah,
it always comes back to math.
You have a very mathematical approach to the world.
Correct.
I find you're like the first person I think that's ever talked about like seeing everything from a mathematical, statistical probability perspective. And could you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, there's a part of your brain that can do quick math. You ever meet someone and you're like, you tell them, hey, what's 13 times 4? And they're like, in their mind, they'll freak out and they'll be like, oh, I don't know what to do here. But like, you know how to do the math. It's 52, whatever. And then you're like, okay. Some people, you ask them that and they just don't do very well. Some people, you do that and they thrive in those situations, right? Or when you have to take a cube, like simple math, right? Doing it quickly. So in the military, I had to do a lot of simple, quick math quickly, right? I have to understand that this KC-135 is flying 420 knots airspeed, going 270, and I need to rendezvous with an F-16, and they're going 650 knots, heading at 135, whatever, and they have to turn it, whatever. You have to do all this math. So that part of my brain actually works really well when I got into my next job, which was I started trading stock options. For those of you who don't know how stock options work, when you buy stock options, if you were to buy there's two types of stock options, put options and call options. If you buy put options, it's the exact same thing as buying home insurance. Just think of home insurance. When you say, oh, I bought a put, just think I'm hedging my risk just like a home insurance. And when you pay for your home insurance, what do you pay? You pay a premium. When you buy a put option, what do you pay? It's called a premium. It's this exact same word. It's the same kind of actuary tables. We just use different names, but the difference between insurance and options are zero. They are exactly the same thing. When you buy a call option, it's the same thing as buying like a lottery ticket or betting on black and roulette, like a very low probability trade. But if you hit it, you make a lot of money, right? I sell put options and I sell call options. So I sell insurance, basically. That's what I do for a living. The way that options are priced is based on volatility, right? And if you were to look at the price of options, it would turn out to be a normal distribution. Right at the mean, at the stock price, you would see like the bulge, and then you would see the fat tails once you got far away from it, right? You understand what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Normal distribution. So I started using that normal distribution ideology for everything that I do, right? I understand that in any decision, there's that middle one standard deviation, right? One standard deviation is 68.27%. So it's like, oh, okay, what car am I going to buy? Well, let me look here. Okay, what's the most likely car? What's the one with the highest resale? What's the one standard deviation move in this? Most things I ask, what's the one standard deviation move, right? And then sometimes you get to 2 standard deviations, 3 standard deviations. When we talk about successful people, like for instance, people who beat the S&P 500 as active traders, 84% of people do not beat the S&P 500. 16% do. Well, if you look on a normal distribution, guess what you find? You'll find the middle 68%, and then you'll find the really bad side to the left, which is like the bad 16%. Yeah. 16 plus 68, guess what? That's 84%. And then there's 16% of people who are successful, right? In general, you're going to find that most things in life, you're going to find a successful 16%, and then an average 68%, and then an unsuccessful 16%. Does that make sense? Yes. So what we talk about, when I talk about with you with social media, it's you have to be in that top 16% for anyone to notice anything you're doing. And if you're in that middle 68%, no one notices anything you're doing. And if you're in that last 16%, obviously nobody. You're just bad, right? No one even knows. So I started making every decision based off of normal distribution, and it's helped me with pretty much everything. The other thing that I learned from trading is the value of things, right? So somebody's like, you go, oh, I'm going to buy a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. Well, you need to see what everyone else is paying for 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms in that area, and then you can quickly judge the value, whether you're being overpriced or underpriced for certain. I know you do a lot of e-com, so you understand what the value of things or what you can charge for something, right? Does that make sense? Yes. So when you understand the value of things and you understand statistical probabilities, it makes life a lot easier. It doesn't mean everything's perfect, right? Sometimes I'll guess like there's no way I had a lot of upside risk on, or downside risk on when the coronavirus thing happened. It was not good for us, right? Things did not stay. My insurance did not hold up. I had to pay out a lot of premium, right? I had to pay a lot out of pocket in order to cover some of those losses. So that wasn't good for us. But then you make money on the way back up. And also because volatility is so insanely high, when's the best time to sell insurance? When's the best time to sell hurricane insurance? Right after the hurricane, right? When's the best time to sell stock options? Right after the big market crash. So it's the same kind of thing. So that's essentially what I do. So I'm a portfolio manager at a small fund out of Florida, and then I also trade for personal clients. That's what I do. I'd say my main living, and then the secondary thing I do for a living is the online coaching that I do with Elevated Media, and then the charity stuff that I do. That's all for free, right? The ring announcing stuff. I don't charge for that. As long as there's a charity involved, I don't do any of that.
So I want to go back a little bit back to when you were in college, and like you said that in high school, like you didn't have to study, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't have the work ethic going into college. But somehow you managed to turn that around, and I can tell that you have a very strong work ethic now. Like, what changed?
Fear, man. It was so afraid of fail. Like, so my grandfather was the dean of the business school at Southern Methodist University. He has a PhD. My father, he was working on his PhD. He has a master's from North Texas in finance. My mom is, she was a nurse for 40 years. My uncle is Robert Watkins, who's like the foremost orthopedic surgeon in the world. I have several lawyers and judges in my family. My grandmother was she wasn't a principal. She was a teacher at high school. My grandfather was the principal of that high school. And all these things, like really, really highly educated people in my family. My aunt's an attorney. I have one uncle who passed away who's a judge, but back in Colombia. And the idea of me failing out of college wasn't realistic. There's no way in my family that I was just going to fail out of college. So fear, honestly, that was the first thing, like get off my ass. I know I'm as smart as these people. I need to do something about it and fix this problem. Also, like, I got to be honest with you, my diet was terrible, even in high school, just nothing but pizza and hamburgers back then. And I had to change that too because my energy level was really bad and I had to be able to focus and study. The same thing happened to me, by the way, when I got to the military, because once I got through RT training and I learned the aircraft, I remember getting to my unit and I was going to go through instructor upgrade. And you have to give these things called pre-briefs. I was doing these military pre-briefs, and they were terrible. They were baseline, like barely anything. And then I would watch some of the better instructors in my unit and watch their pre-briefs, and it was so thorough. And I started studying 10 hours a day because it was one of the same things. It was like, I'm going to let my family down. Can you imagine, like, me being a shitty military officer? Like, I can't even imagine the idea of living something like that down. Do you understand? And I worked my ass off. I went through CFIC. It's upgrades for navigators. I went through it at McCord Air Force Base in Tacoma, Washington. And I just remember just fear, it's the same thing. Like, no matter what, all the things that I cared about before just kind of got knocked out. And the only thing that mattered to me was mastering the subject matter, right? That, I think, those two experiences, the fear of, like, because sometimes I got to get woken up, right? I get complacent just like anyone else. So I was complacent coming into college, and I was complacent going through upgrade school in the military. And I just remember from that point on thinking sometimes I have to train myself and put a fire under my ass in order to do the thing that I do, right? One of the things I teach the clients that I have is to put that fire in their ass. Like, it's almost like it's this thing in your stomach. I don't know how else to explain it. If you've ever had it, like, I'm sure there's been a point when you were running your econ business where it's like, oh, now I know everything I got to do. And it's almost like this, almost like slight anxiety, but you're ready to get to it because you know all the steps you got to take to be successful, right? But and the thing is, like, the uncertainty's gone. You just know I just got to work through this. When you have that feeling, right, because you know what you're doing for a living, you know the thing. So for me, it was like there's a book, there's a tech manual that I have to read. That's all. It's right there in front of me, right? For you, it's just like I know the steps that I have to take in order to successfully move this product, right? When you have that feeling, I had an instructor, he told me one time, because I would get nauseous. My first couple flights, I'd throw up on the plane all the time. I hate flying. It's a crazy thing. I'm an Air Force officer, and I hated flying.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. So I vomited my first 7 flights in the KC-135. It was the deceleration that always made me vomit, not the acceleration. Anyway, so I would order Subway sandwiches specifically because they come in that big plastic bag, and I would just vomit in the bag. So great. And I need a lot of bread to, like, soak up in my stomach. So my instructor, Donnie Starling, he I think he got out as a major. He lives here in Vegas also. He said general knowledge gets rid of nausea. And I've taken that and put it to a bunch of other things. I see guys with these helmet fires. You see them sometimes when we do our calls. These guys who have helmet, like they don't even know where to start. And like having like general knowledge, a knowledge base, it gets rid of so much of that anxiety. This is the problem. So many people want to be entrepreneurs. People like look at Elon Musk as an entrepreneur and forget that he almost finished a PhD in material physics, right? He didn't need it, obviously, but he's smart enough to get a PhD. He's a subject matter expert. So many people are just entrepreneurs and like, hey, man, I just want to make an app. What's the app do? The app's just cool. We're just going to be cool. The app is going to be where we just throw parties and everyone just comes to our parties because we're awesome. Oh, is that how the app's going to work? Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what problem are you solving? I don't understand what you're talking about. You know, we're going to do an app where, like, we just, like, have a bunch of hot girls show up at our place, and then we're just going to take pictures of them and just make millions of dollars. Oh, is that how your app's going to work? That sounds awesome, bro. What problem are you solving again? Like, but that's what ends up happening, right? Because they don't know how to start with why. They don't know. They don't understand their customer. Whatever. You got to work. So yeah, I mean, that was a pretty big lesson for me. Just kind of fear. I mean, that would be the answer to your question. That's what happened to me. Like a fear of, there's a certain amount of pride you need to have with whatever you're doing, right? And then that pride should lead to some anxiety, which should lead to action. What it should not lead to is anxiety, which leads to like self-loathing. And unfortunately, that's what happens a lot of times with people.
Right. It's like you knew what you had to do, right? And you had like this fear of failure and this pride that there's no way I can be that person who doesn't succeed.
I remember being so obsessed with the tech manual. I can't remember what the name of the tech manual is right now, but like I remember studying the pneumatic system in a KC-130, 50-year-old airplane. The heat comes off the engine. The cold would come through the pitot tubes straight, like you would get cold straight from the air, from the outside air. There's no heater or air conditioner on a KC-135. I remember this to this day. I remember where the pipes went. I remember the hydraulic system. I remember the emergency procedures. I remember where the gas masks were. I remember everything about that plane because of the fear that caused me to become a subject matter expert in this one thing. And that one thing that I was doing was a matter of life and death for us. I was also the guy who had to check to make sure the gear was down, right? I was the guy who also had to drop the gear in case there was a problem, right? So I took, the funny thing is, one of the other things I learned about is I had a commander. I've had several commanders, squadron commanders that were terrific. I had one or two that were terrible, very passive aggressive. One of them got fired, like on the job. We had a big meeting, and the colonel brought us in and told us that our squadron commander had been fired. And I'd never seen that before. And I remember seeing this like incredible dichotomy. I'm going to steal this from Jocko Willink, the dichotomy of leadership. I remember seeing firsthand what a good leader looked like and what a bad leader looked like. I remember getting out of the military and talking to people, going to business meetings, and everyone being like kind of late, never accountable, and extremely passive-aggressive. And then being in the military is like, there's no room for passive-aggressive. We don't care how your day went. We need to know if the fucking plane was fixed. Does that make sense? Yes. We don't care. We don't need your pleasantries. We need to know if the mission was accomplished. And when I started dealing with people outside the military, and then I was like, man, I don't know how to explain this to you guys, but like you're so passive aggressive, you won't deal with your problems. Then Jocko Willink came out with those books, Extreme Ownership and The Dichotomy of Leadership, and I was like, this is the first guy who actually gets it, who actually is explaining quality leadership to people, and I just became obsessed with that whole thing. So when I started coaching, the one thing is like, from e-com, there's a bunch of guys who teach e-com, right? They just want, hey, do this, push this button, make money, right? There's a bunch of guys that teach mindset, right? Believe this thing about these mantras, say these things about yourself, right? There's a bunch of guys who teach physical fitness and diet, right? There's a bunch of guys in the seduction community who teach dating, right? None of them teach leadership. You realize that? None of them do.
Yep.
And so that's the one thing how I wanted to change. That's why I call the program Men of Action. It's the one thing where I wanted to teach that was different from other people. Obviously, Jocko Willink teaches leadership, but other than that, I just never saw anybody who was teaching people like passive-aggressive communication is the devil. They don't understand that. They don't understand this statement. When you avoid confrontation, you create conflict. No one gets that, man. When you avoid confrontation, you create conflict. And so learning that lesson in the military and then coming out, and I remember I was working for a talent agent, and I would just see these actors and their agents just fucking lying to each other. Like, no, like just tell the truth. Like, she's not going to get the money. That you're not going to get the part. So do better, do more work. And you just can't do that, right? Because people's feelings get hurt. learning how to constructively criticize people. Another great book I love is Crucial Conversations. You have to give people a way out. Like there's some people you can criticize them and they're just going to shut down. You've given them no way out. Every time I have a communication with somebody where I'm giving them criticism, I always give them a way out, right? A way for them to save face. I can't do it. I can't just destroy them, right? So.
Could you give an example?
I had one recently. There's a show I'm doing, and there's somebody who's on the show, and she keeps saying things that are really, really bad. I'm not going to say why they're bad, but they're like not really based in fact, and they're very politically incorrect, right? And I told her, and she just yelled at me. And then after a while, she kind of calmed down, and she realized what I was saying, and I was trying to explain to her, I'm not the one who's mad. If I can't give you feedback, and I'm not the one who's mad, if I can't give you any feedback, there's no reason for us to talk. Do you understand how dangerous it is if you work with someone who can't take any feedback? Even if they're really good at their job, that means if anything goes wrong, you are fucked. You have a single point of failure, right? There's no way to fix it because this person cannot accept feedback. Does that make sense?
It's a feedback loop.
Yeah, that was one of the other things, feedback loop. Gav and I are talking about, so there's 50 tenets in my program that I teach, and we keep bringing them up. So like abundance mentality, under promise, over deliver, the dichotomy of leadership, extreme ownership. Like these are all things, crucial conversation. These are all tenets from the 50 steps that we talk about. But yeah, that's definitely one. The feedback loop is very important. That's scary. Whenever you see somebody who believes they become a subject matter expert, like a coach or something like that, then the learning stops. Like I don't even like calling myself a coach because it implies that I can't learn more, right? You saw we were in, we talk about social media a lot, right? Wasn't doing anything on TikTok. Kevin was like, hey, guys should try TikTok. There's organic growth. I was like, I don't know. I'm a 42-year-old man. I don't think I would fit on TikTok. Sure enough, I just got 1,000 followers in the last 8 days from posting every day on TikTok just because I listen, because there's a feedback loop for me. There's neuroplasticity left in my brain, whereas most people my age, 42, the learning has stopped. They're good at doing one thing and they can't learn anything new. And it's scary. It's scary to learn new things. It's scary to try new stuff. But for me, I'm always doing a different workout to shock my body. I'm always reading a different book to shock my mind, right? And I'm listening to a different podcast. Generally, I like to listen to podcasts and read books that say things that I disagree with, right? I love reading books that are banned. Anytime I find out about a book that was banned somewhere, I'll read it, always. You should read it. There's a thing called Banned Book Week where everybody goes off and reads all these banned books. It's terrific. I always try to challenge my own viewpoint. And I never want to be that old fogarty man who's like, get off my yard when I turn 50 years old. So does that make sense? Yeah. So here I am, I'm 42 and I'm using TikTok now, right? That's not common. The 42-year-olds aren't doing that. They're making fun of the people on TikTok, right? Meanwhile, the people on TikTok are making millions of dollars, right? So that's you see all the girls converting over to OnlyFans and you're like, oh, that's so OnlyFans. That's for hookers and porn stars. And then you hear about these girls they don't even show nudity. They're making $40,000 a month, and you're like, that's not a fluke. That's a business. That's an actual business. Several of the people, the influencers on there, millions of dollars a year. That's a business. Take note of that business. Don't judge it, right? Don't judge it just because it doesn't seem cool to you. So, I've just learned a lot of that. Just not being judgmental, understanding what good leadership is, never being passive aggressive, right? And then having the fear or the pride in order to become the subject matter expert that I want to be. Like when I'm talking to you today, or whenever you and I do a call together, the idea of me leaving you without a shit ton of value terrifies me. The same way it terrified me when I was in the military, the idea of not doing my pre-brief correctly, the idea of leaving you with questions unanswered, or even slightly feeling like you didn't get your value, fucking terrifies me. When I hear about Ed Milet and Tony Robbins and these other guys, and they teach mindset, you teach mindset? Are you fucking kidding? All you have to do is make these people feel good about themselves, and then they give you what? But you didn't do anything, bro. I don't understand. All you did was upsell them to another product. They don't have any more Instagram followers. They don't have any more money. They don't have a girlfriend. You didn't fucking fix anything. You get money for teaching mindset? Shut the fuck up. That's crazy. Like me, it's like if you guys don't have awesome pictures on your social media and you haven't grown an incredible network, right? And you don't have an incredible list of books to read and you haven't improved your life in an actual physical tacit tangible way. If you haven't done that, I have fucking failed. Then I'll worry about mindset. When you have all this money, dating who you want to date, networking with who you want to network with, then we'll worry about your mindset. But like, because you're on a journey now. But these guys are just, all they teach is mindset. And I'm like, well, so what did Ed Milet do for you? I remember I love what Grant Cardone's my favorite. I always ask people, you like Grant Cardone? They're like, oh, I love Grant Cardone. Okay, so real quick, take as long as you want. You can use Google if you like also. Can you tell me a tangible thing Grant Cardone taught you that like makes you better? Like a thing to do, like a button to push, anything. One single thing, can you do it? No, come on. Can you tell me one thing Grant Cardone has showed you that like made your business processes better? And then I was like, yeah. I read the 10X rule and I was like, there's no practical information in here at all. I read the 4-Hour Work Week and the whole thing is practical, even though I don't agree with all of it. I read Extreme Ownership, the entire thing is practical. I read the one thing, the entire thing is practical. I read the 10X rule. There is not one single practical piece of information in there, not one. In fact, it wasn't until the Jordan Belfort interview with Grant Cardone that I finally heard this guy break down and actually talk about what he does. I want to know, can you imagine you taking an ecom course and them talking about fucking mindset? Could you imagine?
It's 90% of them.
90% of ecom is how you feel about yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, when you sell to Amazon, it's just how you feel about yourself inside. Could you imagine that? No, when you first learned ecom, in your mind at some point there was, I will push this button and then I will make money, right? But like, so there's a tacit thing that you get. The idea of like just teaching mindset, I'm not blaming, listen, these guys have billions of dollars. I'm not trying to hate. And by the way, at some point, I also teach mindset. I can't understand the idea of teaching mindset without some practical, actionable thing. One of my mentors in finance is Tom Sosnoff. He's the creator of the Thinkorswim app and the creator of the Tastyworks app. These are brokerages, stock option brokerages. He lives in Chicago. And he has a show called Tasty Trade Live. It's a financial network. The whole thing's online. And he has a rule every 15 minutes, you have to have some practical takeaway, right? There's a thing, we're going to do upper body weights this week, right? We're going to read this book. There's a thing I need you to do every week, okay? Your mindset's going to come along with that. But like the idea that these guys don't even do that, they're literally teaching mindset blows me away. It really does. And then when you listen to their programs, it's just upsell. You just paid a bunch of money to get upsell to another fucking program. This is crazy. This is crazy. I couldn't sleep with myself. I couldn't be able to sleep at night if I did something like that because we work our asses off. The idea of not giving you value is terrifying to me, right? So yeah, sorry to go off on this tirade here.
I want to play devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
What about the argument that if the person has a shitty mindset to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And like you tell them to do something, but their mindset's so shit that they're not going to take action.
Okay, now here's what happens. There's a great book called Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. When we start accomplishing goals, right, one of the things when you see me play basketball, I get right underneath the basket and I shoot from 5 feet, I make 5. I shoot from 10 feet, I make 5. I need to see the ball go in the basket. There's a psychological effect to seeing the ball go in the basket over and over again. These small wins create a flow state, right? So that's the same situation for him. He needs a set of things to learn how to do. Where does he get that? I would recommend the One Thing by Gary Keller. That's a great book where you can learn those type of things. You'll figure out what your one thing is. Block out time for your one thing. So do your one thing. Much more efficient way instead of multitasking. So you do your one thing. And then you get into a flow state. I do it all the time when I'm playing basketball. There is nothing else and no one else. Nothing else exists except the people that I'm talking to. There's no outside source. I don't care about the trouble that's going on. None of that stuff matters, right? So as far as mindset, you're talking about a shitty mindset. I think when you get into a situation where you're consistently seeing wins, you get out of that shitty mindset. So you notice the other thing that I base everything on besides math is evolutionary psychology. I've read every book there is on evolutionary psychology. Steven Pinker, Cindy Meston, David Buss, all of it. Every book I can find, Satoshi Kanazawa, every book I can find on evolutionary psychology. And one of the things you have to understand is when you think about the pre-Pleistocene human, he couldn't sit there and consider whether or not he was depressed. In fact, when you think about it, a pre-Plasticine male didn't even know if he was good looking. He had no way of even knowing if he was a good looking man, right? The only thing he knew is that I have to perform and I have to do these things. And when I do them, I bring food back to the tribe and then people get to live. Does that make sense? My hunter-gatherer nomad tribe. So when you think about it, evolution would then design a brain for you to be happier when you're accomplishing things, to give you the reward function of your brain, rewards you when you go achieve the goal. Does that make sense? You go work out with a team, okay? One guy makes the noise, which makes the gazelle run in this direction, and the other guy hits the gazelle with a spear. Teamwork. Do you understand? And then look at our society. We look at sports, teamwork. We see these, we're out men achieving a goal together, right? And then you see these people like, what's the opposite of that? Look at like Lindsay Lohan and Charlie Sheen, right? At one point, Lindsay Lohan and Charlie Sheen had all the money they could ever spend. They were considered as good looking as you could be. They were considered the best in their industry. Charlie Sheen, highest paid television actor, right? So what does he do? There's no more to accomplish. And in fact, when he goes to work and he's on that show 2.5 Men, who's he playing? What actor is he playing, actually? He's playing himself. He's a debaucherous fucking womanizer on the show, and he is in real life. So just imagine you're an actor, you're getting paid more than any other actor in the world, and you play yourself on a TV show. Where are the challenges every day? You probably have a helicopter fly you to the fucking studio set. There's no challenges. So what do? You fucking smoke crack cocaine, and you start having unprotected sex with porn stars till you get HIV. That's what you do. Because there's no more challenge for you. Does that make sense? All of your needs are met. There's Bilzerian, he started Ignite, right? There's these articles in Forbes. Unfortunately, they've lost $50 million in the last year. Well, my whole question is like, if you're Dan and you have $50 million, why do you need to start this company in the first place? And the thing is, for him, he wasn't he would just sit there, he would wake up and there'd just be women there for him. And everyone would want to take his picture and everything he posted on social media would just be a massive success. Like, you understand? So he needed a new goal to accomplish, right? Some people are like that. They need new goals you just give them everything. That actually happened for me for a while, where every year I was making 20 to 30% return for my investors, but the market closes at 1 p.m. Pacific. There's no homework to do. I don't take anything home with me. I was trading from my bed. Bro, could you imagine you make 30% a year, you trade from your bed? Where's the challenge? I remember at sometimes like almost going through anxiety and depression. Like, this is, not that this was too easy. It's very stressful. Trust me, when a pandemic hits, very stressful. You realize how small big is, or how big small is, right? When all of a sudden a pandemic hits. Like, extremely stressful. But like when you do that and you realize, well, what's the challenge that I achieved today? What's the thing? How did I make the world better? You didn't do anything, right? And so that's where the stress comes in. So you're talking about a mindset. If we got you into some situation where every day you're getting these small wins, that's going to fix your mindset. Because like we said, this pre-Plasticine male that was your ancestor, that's how he felt better about himself. Do you understand? Like, how often do you think these men were like back then, who were living in tribes of 150 people, had time to feel depressed? They were barely having enough food to eat. The average life expectancy was 22 years old. The life was hard for them, right? So they just didn't have much. They didn't have time to feel depressed. I remember when I went to survival school. It would have been 2005 or whatever. So Lost was on back then. House, you remember House MD? That show was on back then. I think 24 was on back then. And I remember going to Spokane, Washington, Fairchild Air Force Base, and there were like 17 days, no television, no phone, no nothing, right? You're going to survival school. I remember thinking to myself, fuck, I want to watch House. I want to watch Lost, right? I was like, those were the concerns in my life. That first day of no food, when you're out in the woods and you just walk 10 miles and you have no food and you have to kill a rabbit with your bare fucking hands, you're not worried about 24 or House or Lost anymore. Your priorities shift. And like, I don't remember being happy or sad. I just remember the necessity to survive was so strong. There was no time for introspection. There was no time to like, oh, I'm depressed and I feel anxiety and I have a bad mindset. No, there's no mindset. I need to live. I need to find a water source. Put iodine tablets in my canteen so I can drink this shit without shitting myself. I need to survive. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think, this is going to come off pretty controversial, I think most behavioral problems could be fixed with Marine Corps boot camp, personally. That's what I think, okay? Maybe that's just me. My dad did use corporal punishment on me. His dad used corporal punishment on him, okay? I think that most people are in the situation they are because there was no discipline instituted at any point in their life earlier. And so that's fine. The world allows you to live like that. You can be extremely successful. Mark Zuckerberg, I don't know how much discipline he has. He has no problem stealing your fucking information and then asking for permission afterwards, right? He's super smart. But like most people do, like they don't have a ton of discipline, and then they have a hard time succeeding. And I feel like a lot of the depression things that are going on with a lot of people and anxiety, a lot of those things can be fixed when there's a goal you have to achieve every day. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Instead, they make their life about the possessions they have and the person they're dating, or the perception other people have of them on social media. That if those are the things that you base your happiness on, that's an external locus of control. Again, going back to the curriculum of 50 steps, that's an external locus of control, and you're bound to suffer. Like Buddha says, right? No mind, right? Enlightenment is the end of suffering, right? That's what he says. So it's the same thing. Like when I'm sitting there and I'm worried about wanting something that is other than what I have right now, of course suffering is the only thing to follow, right? So when you consider this, I always tell people this. There are people who every week they cross the border, and they're immigrants that cross the border illegally or legally. And they work jobs for next to no money, out in incredibly toiling circumstances, unbelievably hot situations, and some of them are happy. They're actually happy. So what the fuck is your excuse? Can you imagine being in a horrible situation like that, and they're happy? There are people out there that are poor, and they're surrounded by family members who love them, and they're happy. So what's your fucking excuse for being sad? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And they again, let's go back to Lindsay Lohan and Charlie Sheen. Let's go, oh, I'm not happy. I have everything. I'm not happy. Let me just go fuck porn stars and get AIDS. Like that's what you do. I'm not trying to be funny because that's what he did, right? That's what Lindsay Lohan. Like let's just do all the drugs. You had everything. There was no more professional accomplishment for you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you have to get those wins in every day, and that then changes the mindset. Another thing, like there's also like in the short term, physical activity. There is no good mindset, healthy total individual without exercise. This is so many people skip this. Your ancestors had to exercise to survive. I don't understand how you think you can get away without doing it. There's a great book called Spark where they basically talk about the difference between curing depression through physical activity versus curing depression through narcotics, right? Pharmacologically curing depression. And they talk about when you go walk or run or play basketball, the correct amounts of dopamine and norepinephrine and serotonin are injected into your bloodstream, into your brain, and then you feel happy, you can recover. But when you take Prozac or some beta blocker or something like that, you don't get quite the right mix. So physical exercise is a cure for depression. I've never seen a person in my life depressed with a basketball in their hand. Never once. It is physically impossible. It's physiologically impossible to be depressed and have a basketball in your hand at the same time, right? So, but the people don't believe this. They don't want this. They just instead, like they don't want you to cure their depression. They love being a victim, and then they want you to validate their victimhood. I can't do that. That is a tenet of bad leadership. I cannot validate your victimhood. We need to figure out a way. We need to figure out a way to solve the problem to get to where you need to go, so that you get your wins every day and get your mindset right.
It's pretty much those small wins. Like I talk about this as well. It's like the small wins like build momentum as well.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
And like going back to also the depression factor, I'm gonna tell a personal story that I haven't shared before, but like working towards a goal will cure your depression pretty much.
Yeah.
Right. Like a story that came to my mind when you said that was when I was like 13, and I came from a
pretty traditional family.
Yeah. And I was pretty depressed like most of the time.
For sure.
And I was like, and I had very like suicidal thoughts.
And
things like that, right? But like the thing that it was like that for like years, right? Mm-hmm. And then what changed for me, right, was as soon I don't know how I came across it. Maybe I read something and I was trying to find a way to cure that whatever that feeling, but it was I just set a goal. I didn't know at the time that I was doing this, but I set a goal for myself, and I can still remember it was when I was 13. It was I'm gonna every single day I'm gonna just get a little bit better at something.
Yeah, for sure.
And then as soon as I made that my goal, my depression
it goes away. Exactly.
It instantly went away. It wasn't it took a week. It was instant.
Instantly.
And I was this is incredible.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because it gives your mind a direction or something.
It brings you into the present moment. That's what it does. It brings you into the present moment. Happiness comes with present moment awareness. Happiness is when you recognize and appreciate the people that are around you right now, not thinking about obsessing over the future or the past, trying to reinterpret the past or trying to predict the future, that's when you get sad. That's when you try to control things that creates stress and anxiety, right? It's the thing that brings you into the present moment. So having that goal, that's fine, but I had a plan, and you're exactly right. So the same thing with your business. It's like, okay, I want to make this amount of money. So how many sales do I need to make? But like you just narrow it down to the minute, because the thing is you're in this minute, you're not in the next. And so if you can concern your life with that, seriously, Eckhart Tolle, Buddha, and fucking Mark Manson, you just got to be in the present moment and get to choose what you care about, and then that gets rid of the suffering. So anything that brings you into the present moment is helpful.
Yeah, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. I always recommend that book to everybody. Like I first read that when I was 18, and that like completely changed my life. I feel like I read that in my first year of college.
It's funny. Do you ever recommend that book to people and they just don't get it?
Yeah. So like, it's weird.
So it's weird because they haven't suffered enough. Like you talked before about, so like there is a certain level of suffering you have to experience to get to suicide, right? For me, it was my girlfriend broke up with me and my dad was killed by a drunk driver in like a 60-day period. And then I got shipped off to Iraq. It's all three things happened around the same time. So there was like, okay, I've suffered enough now. Now I read The Power of Now. Okay, now I'm ready for it. I give it to my other friend who's like super attached to his identity as whatever he is, a party planner, a real estate agent, whatever the identity he has. And then I don't get this book, man. I don't understand this book you're giving me. It doesn't make any sense, right? It's funny, like Ty Lopez does not like that book. Ty has not suffered enough, so that's why he doesn't like the book. I mean, I'm just going to be real if Ty's listening. If Ty has suffered enough, he'd understand. He thinks that the book is about feeling a certain way and not taking action. I couldn't be more against that whole policy than anyone in the world. That whole thing then clears your mind to then take right action, right? I can't take right action because the trick that your mind plays on you is this idea that me obsessing over the future will somehow fix the future. It won't. Creating a plan, going 0 miles an hour with a heart rate of 80, that will fix the future. Having a heart rate of 160, freaking out over the future does not fix the future. But this victim mentality and this identity that your mind creates for you makes you think, if I freak out over this thing, somehow that will fix it. Why aren't you freaking out also? Let's all freak out together, right? But then you're like, no, I'm just going to do the thing I'm just going to do the right action.
What is it that like drives you now? Is it are you still run by fear and pride, or is it something else now? Like, are you trying to have an impact on people? Or
to me, the thing that drives me, I love being right mathematically with the trading. That's cool. I enjoy that. But the thing that drives me now is helping my clients. Like, I didn't realize how fulfilling this would be. Is raising money for domestic abuse, animal cruelty, animal rescue, packages for troops overseas, toys for underprivileged children. Those charities that I work with, those things mean a ton to me. And when I throw those events, one of the things I love is the people that I bring around me. I think, it's just my theory, I could be wrong, but I think it's very difficult to be a sociopath and consistently go to charity events. I think after a while, your sociopathy would be like, wait, but we don't get anything out of this. Like, what do we get? You know what I'm saying? Where's the thing? How do I win here? And it's like, no, you go and you give money to the charity. That makes you feel good. Well, I'm a sociopath. That doesn't make me feel good. And it kind of selects for those people to get out of my life, which is why I really like that.
How do you tell that someone is a sociopath?
This is really good. I recommend everyone, regardless of what you're doing for a living, you need to read the book, The Sociopath Next Door by Martha Stout. Basically, this is the thing. There is no way, so sociopaths don't think that they're suffering from any sort of illness, right? Sociopathy, antisocial personality disorder, is a type 2 personality disorder in the DSM. And basically, the tenets are impulsiveness, narcissism. There's several different ones. There's like 7, and if you fit 3 of the 7 or whatever, they've actually changed the definition now to where like you have to do a criminal act or whatever. I don't know. The point to me, a sociopath will always be someone who does not feel empathy or shame or guilt for or remorse for anything that they do. Okay, so how do you tell? Martha Stout says this, and this is what I've gone by. You're going to have someone in your life. They're going to do you wrong or do someone wrong, and they're not going to take the blame for it. In fact, they're going to blame you for it. You get 3 chances. When you have someone who's like, no, bro, like, I was going to give you the money back. Or, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take your car. I'm sorry. Like, man, like, listen, like, it's probably better for you that I fucked your girlfriend, because like she was probably going to cheat on you anyway. You probably get 1 chance with that guy, right? But You get 3 chances where you allow this person in your life, and then when they can't take any responsibility for their actions 3 times, then you just cut them from your life. Martha Stout does not say that that is not clinical proof that this person's a sociopath, but the percentages are so dramatically high that you should just eliminate this person from your life. Does that make sense? And so the thing is, one of the things is people don't understand when they hear psychopath, sociopath, antisocial personality disorder. They're the same thing, just someone who doesn't experience empathy. They understand that they have feelings. They just don't believe that you have feelings.
Right. Yeah, so I want to shift the topic a little bit to social media.
Okay.
How important do you think it is for a person to have a good social media, like a good Instagram, etc.?
The thing is, the world is set up to where the original ways of people meeting each other, those are gone. You're not meeting, you don't know who your neighbor is, okay? It's not happening at the PTA meeting. You're not going down to the gym and bumping into this. It's not how the world works anymore. You're not even going to a bar and meeting them. Like every person I know is meeting on a dating app or on social media. And the best dating app in the world is called Instagram. So now you're in this situation where you start to realize, well, if I don't have Instagram, maybe I won't get one of these super hot influencers, but I'll just get a normal girl. And then you start to realize, no, you won't. The normal girls are on Instagram. And they're paying attention to the huge male influencers. Like, you want to know why you didn't meet that incredible girl that destiny and fate and karma had aligned for you? Because she was at Dan Bilzerian's house. That's why you never met her. Because she was on the Groove Cruise. Because she was at EDC. Because she was at Ultra. Because she was at Live nightclub, or she was on stage at XS. She was at the Playboy Mansion. And you can't get into any of those fucking places because no one knows who you are because you don't have social media. So that you were like, let's just say, I hate to qualify people like this, but let's just say you see yourself as a 7 out of 10 and you expect to date a woman who's a 7 out of 10. That 7 out of 10 is following the 8 out of 10s and the 9 out of 10s and the 10 out of 10s, and they're all going to Bilzerian's house. That's what's happening. And so now you don't have social media, and like you aren't just like you aren't stuck in averageness. You don't even exist. No one even knows you exist. When I meet guys who don't have an Instagram, I automatically think, well, I mean, I hope you don't get busted for all the narcotics you're selling, or like I hope your wife doesn't find out you're cheating on her. That's the first thing I think. Whenever I meet somebody who doesn't have an Instagram, I'm like, well, hopefully your wife doesn't find out you're cheating on her, because it's so creepy to me. And I know this sounds crazy. There's going to be people who are listening that's like, no, it's not like that. My boyfriend, he doesn't have social media because he's super successful. Like, no, he has a wife and he's not trying to tell you about it. And they all, by the way, there's going to be some lady who's listening to this right now, and you're dating a guy who is supposedly super successful because he does bond arbitrage or some bullshit, or he owns a CBD company. He's not super successful, okay? He doesn't want his family and his kids to know that he's dating you. That's why he doesn't have an Instagram. You can believe me or not, but people who are successful also have social media, okay? It drives me crazy when I hear women say that. Oh, the guy I'm dating, he's just like a professional. He doesn't do that social media stuff. I'm like, that's not true. He's just lying to you. He probably does have an IG and doesn't even want you to see it. He's got his pictures of his kids and his mom on there. So the thing is, like, the way it used to be, especially if we go back far enough, if you were a guy who had a value, again, this is going to sound very shallow, but we're going to use mathematics here. You have a value of a 50. You're going to date a woman who has a value of a 50. You guys are going to get married and have children, and the average resulting value of your children will be about a 50. I know that sounds horrible to say this, okay? But like, then you're Brad Pitt, okay, and your value's a 99. You meet Angelina Jolie, her value's a 99, and then you get to married and have children. Does that make sense? Okay, that's just again, please do not be offended by what I'm about to say. You're morbidly obese and you grow up living in a trailer, and you meet someone else who's morbidly obese, grow up living in a trailer, and then you guys have kids, and then your average, value is whatever. Okay, that's the way the world used to work. But what happened was the guy with the value of the 50, who was waiting for the girl with the value of the 50, she moved to Los Angeles when she was 18 years old, and she's trying to become a model. The guy with the value of a 70 who's waiting for a girl whose value of a 70, she actually thinks she's going to become a famous actress because she sees people doing it on social media. She thinks she's going to become a famous singer. Thinks she's going to become an influencer. She thinks she's going to make TikTok videos. She thinks she's going to make YouTube videos. She's going to become a vlogger and make millions of dollars. And she's a 70, and you're a 70. Well, that 70 who was waiting for you to marry, she's gone. Her and 16 other girls are sleeping with the same 4 guys. That's the problem. That's the part you're missing. That if you don't, there's these guys who are taking advantage of social media, and they're taking all the girls away from the guys who aren't. That's why it's important. Now we're just talking about dating. Now let's switch this over to like any sort of business concern. If you're a real estate agent, what's the thing you can show? What's the irrefutable visual evidence you can show? The house you closed, how beautiful it is. Oh, I sell luxury real estate, right? Let me show you this. Look at this drone video of this luxury house I sold. What's the best medium for showing a video or pictures? Instagram, or just social media in general. So now here you are, and you have a medium where you're selling things, and it's a visual medium. You have to use Instagram, or you don't exist. Any real estate agent who doesn't have an Instagram, he doesn't exist. He doesn't exist. Does that make sense? But think if it was even something more audacious, like you're trying to sell like marijuana or fucking cars or something like. Can you imagine like Ford not having an Instagram, not showing off their new products? That's what the medium is for. Like you don't. Here's the thing people don't understand. Instagram is not an advantage. Instagram is just barely keeping your head above water. Without an Instagram, you don't even exist. You don't even exist to be dead. You don't even get to, it's almost like falling into a black hole and time stops. You don't even get to die when you fall in the black hole because you don't even exist. This is the same thing here. Time has stopped for you. When you don't have social media, you don't even exist to some people. Now, internally, who you are as a human being, your value as a human being, don't let social media define that. But also, don't be stupid enough to think that you as a business person are just going to make it. Now, listen. If you're a scientist, you work at a top secret facility in fucking, you work at a top secret government facility and you're TS clearance and you have a wife and kids, you don't need an Instagram. I'm not talking to you. You're not who I'm talking to. I'm talking to most other people who are like looking for someone to date or looking to grow their business and they need to find other people. Like defense manufacturers have freaking Instagrams. You understand? People who manufacture weapons have Instagrams. Cryptocurrency, everybody, they all have these social media things. And the idea that billions of people are on here, but you're not, and somehow you matter and you exist, no, you don't exist. Because the life that you used to live from the 50s to the 80s was, hey, you had a crush on the girl down the street, or your neighbors would go barbecue with the other neighbors. My mom does not know a single fucking person who lives on her block. No one. She doesn't go to any barbecue, like nothing like that. I don't know the name of a single one of my neighbors. I probably don't know the name of 3 other people who live in my building. That's just the way the world is, right? We don't have that communal existence anymore. Social media makes it very large and wild. So if that's the case, then like what people don't understand is that like my value is a 50, so I don't have social media, so my value is a 50. No, if you don't have social media, your value is 0. That's the problem that people, man, it sounds so shallow me saying this, but then when you actually do the scientific study, you're like, wow, he's right. Like I can't, like the guy who has social media, his ability to meet new women, the guy who has social media, his ability to find new clients is 100 times bigger than mine without social media. So that's why I'm saying you literally don't exist.
Yeah, like in my experience, like I used to be that guy who was like, oh, social media is a waste of time. Yep. Like it's not real. It's superficial.
It is superficial, and it is not real. Yeah. I completely agree with those 2 statements. Mm-hmm. But my social media is not my soul. It's not me praying to God. It's not me sending up smoke signals to some God in the sky. My social media is just a tool by which I can express myself, or I can bring more people into my circle to network with, to sell to date, to network, to whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it just gives you so much more opportunity to like not only meet like girls obviously, but like with business and like potential like if you run like any business, you can easily network with other people in your space.
Yes.
Right. And if you have like no pictures, you have 0 posts and like 10 followers, you don't look like you're a real person. So I want to give the audience some like practicality. Like I like to give practical advice to my audience. Like what are some practical steps that they should do? Well, we'll start with social media. Like at the second, like they have, maybe 100 followers, it's just their friends and family, and they have like 5 posts, right? Like what would you tell that person? Like, hey, what's the first thing you should do?
So the advice I'd give for social media is the advice I'd give for anything else. Okay, number 1 is you have to find mentors. You're going to find mentors, and guess what? They're going to have more than 5 posts. They're going to have a lot more followers than you. But you're going to go back to the beginning. You're going to see how they got those followers. Or I'd find mentors if I was selling real estate. Or I'd find mentors if I was a U.S. military officer. Or I'd find mentors if I was an attorney. No matter what it is, I'm going to find mentors. And then I'm going to use suspension of belief speed of implementation, suspension of disbelief. I'm going to do exactly what they do, not sort of what they do. exactly what they tell me to do 10,000 times or some derivation thereof, so I can become an expert at the thing they're doing. I'm going to humble myself to learn what this mentor can teach me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you talk about those three concepts, the speed of implementation and
Speed
suspension
of
of disbelief?
implementation and suspension of disbelief. So I'll tell somebody to do something and they'll be like, no, all these things. I'm like, I want you to dive into this like you might die. Does that make sense? Just jump off the cliff. Like don't end the call now. Stop talking to me if you can't just do this thing without questioning it, right? Because that is a skill in and of itself, to just do a thing just immediately and just let your beliefs go by, right? Especially with social media. For most people who are introverted or most people who are not big on social media, when you post, it feels disingenuous because it almost feels like you're bragging or you're giving a piece of yourself that you'd like to keep private. Well, keep it private. It doesn't have to be the real you, but you do need to attract people on there. There's this dichotomy. People don't understand that nuance, right? They think, well, I didn't get a lot of likes, therefore I'm a lesser person. No, that's not the point. I didn't say that. Social media is not you. Social media is not God. Don't sit there and talk about your girlfriend leaving you on social media. That's not the point. It has to be funny, has to be informative, or has to be positive. Those are the only things that I would post, right? The one about your girlfriend cheating on you, that should never be on social media. I see so many guys post that. It's unbelievable. You think this pity is somehow going to get you anything? No. You've misinterpreted it. Facebook is not God. You need to go to your pastor, or you need to go to your friends and tell them that your wife left you. You don't need to go on social media and talk about it. Got it? That'd be the first thing. The second thing, this is not social media related, but this is the thing that I tell everybody. The most practical thing that has improved my life, the easiest, was learning how to listen to audiobooks at faster and faster and faster speeds. Same thing with podcasts. Learning to listen to podcasts at double speed. Find podcasts and audiobooks that will help. YouTube videos also. Find podcasts, YouTube videos, and audiobooks that will help you in your life, that will help you gain subject matter expertise, and listen to them as fast as you can. And what you're going to find is that, for me, my retention is actually better at 1.7 than it is at 1.0. That's counterintuitive. It's counterintuitive. For some books, my retention is better at 2.2 speed than it is at 1.0. That's counterintuitive. Everyone's like, no, you're listening to it too fast. You're not going to. No. You see those guys play speed chess? Some of those guys who play speed chess, if you made them play regular speed chess, they'd fuck up. But at speed chess, there is no mind. They just get, you understand what I'm saying? There's no distraction. So they absorb the information better. So that's the second thing I would tell you. You are doing social media for other people. You're not doing it for yourself. Those pictures of you with your arms around your buddies from college where you're drinking beer, no one gives a fuck about those pictures. Stop posting them. Yes, it's fake. Yes, it's an advertisement. You cannot believe me if you want. And listen, you and your 26 followers can be happy and talk shit about me all you want, but it doesn't make you right. If you want to make any impact whatsoever, you have to do it on social media. And if you want to make an impact on social media, you have to do your social media for other people. You cannot do it for yourself. You can't do a post because it makes you feel good. You have to do a post because it solves someone else's problem. The problem I like to solve on my posts is, hey, here's when and where the charity is, or hey, here's something to make you laugh. Those are the two things those are the two problems I really like to solve on my social media. Other people are different, but those are the two main ones that I like to do.
So, to rehash, audiobooks, mentors, and
consider your audience. You're doing things for other people. Read the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. You need to, in everything you do, you have to have a consideration and empathy for your audience. You will be paid commiserate to the size of the problem you solve, right? That's it. If you can focus on that, then all of this will it'll make sense. The problem is my friends who want to start an app, they want to start an app for them. They don't want to start an app for other people. They want to start a website for them, not a website for other people. They want to start a business for them. They create a restaurant, and the restaurant is the restaurant they wish they could go to, not the restaurant for other people or other people would enjoy, right? So because they do that, they're not successful because they're not doing it for other people. They can't empathize with their audience, right? They haven't found mentors who are going to tell them, hey, this is where I fucked up, this is where I did right, okay? And they're not subject matter expert.
Okay, so I want to give more practical steps. The person listening right now, if they're in a place right now, they're in their early 20s, they're maybe working a job, they're working minimum wage, something like that, right? What would you tell that person to if they want something better for their life, what would you tell them?
I know guys who are they're 18 and they're no, I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm like, well, why don't you, that thing you want to do, you want to be an event manager, why don't you go work for an event manager and then gain some subject matter expertise? No, I just don't want a boss. Because I read a book that said that I don't need to have a boss. Because the book said that I'm an entrepreneur, so that means I don't have a boss and I don't have to check in it. You know these people. You know who the fuck I'm talking about, dude.
Of course, yeah.
Like, oh, I don't want a boss, so I'm an entrepreneur. So I'm not going to ever work for anyone. I'm like, dude, I work for a lot of people. I work for a colonel, I work for a major, and I work for a captain. Like, and you know what? I learned a bunch of things from those people. As far as like the practical things that I tell you to do, become the subject matter expert. That means you got to do some work. That sucks, man. You got to do some work. That means like you want to learn how to do this thing. Maybe, do you know iTunes U? All those classes are free. You want to become an event planner? You know, there are event planners, master's level event planner courses you can find online. Why can't you do that? Why can't you learn how to do that? You could get a degree from UNLV. They actually teach some of this stuff, right? There's all these things that you could learn, but you don't want to, no, I don't want a boss. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have to have a boss. No, man, stop. Do you want financial freedom? Do you want to be an entrepreneur and work from home? Like, dude, they're just selling you nonsense. They are, like, I'm not saying that shouldn't be the goal. That's great. But, like, they're making you afraid of the thing that gets you to your goal. That thing is becoming a subject matter expert, following a mentor. You get that mentor sometimes because you have to work for him. Got it?
Yeah.
Right? Those agents, those sports agents or those movie star agents, you know what they used to be? You know what every single one of them used to do? They all used to work in the mailroom. They were interns who just like worked 40, 50 hours in the mailroom because they had to learn. They had to become subject matter expertise. They weren't like, hey man, I'm just going to post cool pictures on my social media and then I'll just get clients because I'm cool. It doesn't work that way, man. It doesn't work that way. You want to become a videographer? Go work for a videographer. Do it for free. Intern for him. You know, whatever the thing is you want to do. I mean, for anything, for like medicine, you have a residency. You don't have a choice. You have to find a mentor. Same thing, you become an associate if you become a lawyer. You don't have a choice. You have to find a mentor, right? That's the way it works. So I just don't understand why. That's the strength of Homo sapiens, is that we're able to pass down stories, right? That's the book Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. He talks about that. The thing that separates us from other species is that we're able to pass down this knowledge, right? We're sitting here taking advantage of the fact that we're talking on these audio devices. James Clerk Maxwell, Thomas Edison, Benjamin Franklin, Albert Einstein, Johannes Kepler, Isaac Newton. We stand on their shoulders. They've invented these incredible principles and things that we use every day, and we take them for granted. The Wright brothers, and like winged flight, all these things, we just completely take them for granted because we live in a society where people found mentors. Does that make sense? Right? Max Planck was a mentor for Albert Einstein. These people who you think are awesome, they had mentors. So how the fuck do you not have one? How the fuck do you think you're just smart enough to do it on your own? There's all these people who can teach you these, and they want to teach you these things. So that would be the main thing that I would tell them. Get over this idea that you have to be the, quote, entrepreneur, and you can't have a boss. Get over that.
I want to give a little bit of background on you. Like, I see you, like, you're a portfolio manager for a hedge fund. You coach clients.
Mm-hmm.
You work with Luke. But you also do these charity events. Like,
yeah.
You're connected to a wide range of people. Like, how did that all start? Like, did you just like start networking with certain people?
No, I worked. So I worked at a sports radio station in high school, and then I was an MC at some nightclubs while I was in the military. Then when I got here, I worked for an event company, and we would throw these small like fashion shows or whatever. And I was just, my boss did not recognize immediately that I was very comfortable on the microphone. He just thought it was like, hey, Michael, just take the microphone and do whatever. And then it became like kind of the defining part of the company was me on the microphone interviewing people. He really didn't like that, which is why I ended up leaving that company. But it was like I would cover these different charity events. And the thing that I realized is that like I turn in all my interviews to Maximo TV. My buddy Maximo does it. He has interviews that have like several million views, several 100,000 views. So I always turn them into Maximo. It's a YouTube channel called Maximo TV. And I would look and I would see like Nicole Kidman would get interviewed and no one cared. He'd get like 500 views. And then there'd be some like huge IG model and she'd get 600,000 views on there because that's what people on YouTube wanted to see. So for me, it was like, hey, should I go work at Entertainment Tonight where no one gives a shit? Do you watch Entertainment Tonight? Do you sit at home at 10 p.m. like your mom and dad did and watch Entertainment Tonight? No, you know what it is. You don't watch Entertainment Tonight. I bet you don't watch Letterman or Leno or any of that shit. You don't watch any of those late night shit. None of us do. Saturday Night Live, what the fuck is that? I heard it's a show. I don't watch that shit, right? So I was like, why don't I just use these influencers that I know already, make friends with them. This is another thing, man. I make friends with females. This is really hard for a lot of guys to understand. I make friends with girls. I don't treat them like they're aliens. I treat them like my guy friends. I treat them like my teammates. My best thing is like, I am the wide receiver and they're the quarterback. I am the point guard and they're the shooting guard. I treat them like actual teammates. That's how I treat my female friends. I do not treat them differently because they're females. And then, so I have all these female friends and then I tell them straight up, I'm like, hey, we want to use your influence to raise money for this charity. That's what I did, and it just ballooned tuned into all these things. Every time the charities want to pay me, I'm like, you don't have to pay me. Don't worry about it. I'm doing this for free. I can't believe all the money that we've raised. This is incredible. And then I create these relationships with all these influencers, and they love me, and I love them, and they help me raise money. Unapologetically using attractive women to raise money for charity. That's exactly what we do. And it just feeds on itself, right? And then because of that, because I met so many influencers, I then got into recruiting for beauty pageants. So I'm the host of Swimsuit USA. I'm the host of the Spa in Vegas Hot 100. I was the host of the Dre Swimsuit Showcase. I'm the host of Rehab Bikini Invitational. I was the host of the International Bikini Model Search. I was the host of Hooked on Fashion Model Search, and the host of Miss Brazil USA. And then I did the Maxim parties. And then I used to be a host for Tropic Beauty. So I do all those things also. And they all just feed into each other. So it was just a networking thing.
Right. Like, what are like some quick, like, practical, like, steps for someone who wants to start, like, networking and like get to like
so do as much as you can for other people and ask for nothing in return. That would be the first thing I would tell you. Like, people should be confused with the amount of value you're giving them and asking for nothing in return. That would be the first thing I tell you, right? Then after that, I would tell you create win-win situations for as many people as you can. So you need to become the connector. You're connecting the guy with the leaky roof to the roofer. You're connecting the guy with the DUI problem to the fucking DUI lawyer. You're the one who's doing the connecting, right? I just think about it. Euclid's equation. If A equals B and B equals C, then C equals A, right? It has to do with angles of a triangle, actually. But in Euclid's equation, if person A introduces to person B who's high status to person C who's high status, then person B and person C both attribute that high status to person A. It's called value arbitrage. That's where it comes from, okay? Being a connector, your value then increases simply because you connect other people. I know some people who have no skills whatsoever in life. They can't sing, they can't dance, they can't edit video, they can't code, they can't sell, they can't do shit. But one thing they can do is they can introduce high status person A to high status person B. They become a connector, and from that they consolidate power. From that they gain information, right? I think maybe my background in counterintelligence probably had something to do with it. But yeah, that's what I would tell somebody to do if they wanted to start networking, right? Just do it. And again, you're doing things for other people. Man, when you can really understand that you're doing things for other people all the time, that's what you're considering, then it's so much better, because then what happens is everything just works out for you.
Like, you have all these pieces of your life like stretched together, and you like one thing to notice about you is like you have a good balance, or what you with like an optimal lifestyle design, right? And like, what would you tell like to like those people who just like all they have is one thing, like all they have is like the work, all they have is one part of their life handle, and then every other part of their life is like shit.
So the 4-hour work week and the one thing. 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, The One Thing by Gary Keller. Those things helped me become more efficient at the one thing I wanted to get good at, which then allowed me the free time to do the next thing. In my mind, me trading for my clients is a thing that is a high priority early in the day, but it's just as high a priority for me to go to the gym. It's just as high a priority for me to keep up with Game of Thrones or whatever TV show I'm watching, or whatever podcast I'm listening to. All these things are also priorities. What people do instead is like, I'll make time for reading that book next week. I'll spend time with my family next week. No, you can't live like that. You literally have to. I heard Kevin Hart on his interview with Joe Rogan talking about this. It's like, no, it got to a point where it's like, I'm going to take 3 weeks off, and then you can't call me. There's no emergency you're going to get me for. We're done. I'm going to spend time with my family. You have to make that happen. It's this habituation and this discipline that you get from these good habits every day. Another great book is The Power of Full Engagement by Tony Schwartz that talks about that. It's like you just get used to making these really good habits happen over and over again. It's not willpower that causes you to lose weight. It's just doing the right diet today, then doing the right diet today, tomorrow, then doing the right diet today, 2 days from now, doing the right diet today, 3 days from now. Does that make sense? You just make it about today, that small goal that you accomplish. That willpower doesn't work. Willpower will wear out. What will not wear out is if you can create habits. When you start feeling anxiety for not going to the gym, that's when you've created the correct. That's better than willpower. The anxiety for not taking the right action.
And what are like some of the best habits like someone should implement into their life?
Dude, again, I keep saying this. Whenever I am in a car, whenever I am at the gym, or whenever I'm eating food, I am listening to a podcast, a YouTube video, or an audiobook that is somehow benefiting my life. I do not listen to music anymore.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
What?
People who are like, I have but I just want to listen to music.
That's fine. You can listen to it sometime. Go to a club, like when you want to listen to music. But like seriously, this book you're reading could make you $1 million, and you want to listen to music. Go listen to the Millionaire Mindset instead. The Millionaire Fast Lane. Go listen to those books instead. Don't worry about the music right now. You can listen to music later. Like, learn how to focus. The fact that you can listen to that audiobook and it's 8 hours long, that cures your ADD in and of itself. That is a skill set. Your ability to learn and your ability to focus comes from you listening to these audiobooks. Look at this. You got the information from the audiobook. You got the ability to learn faster, right? And you have the ability to focus. 3 incredible things you get from listening to these audiobooks. No, but I got to listen to that new Ariana Grande because it slaps. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Like, I'm telling you to be a subject matter expert. You don't get anything in life for free. You don't deserve shit. There's no such thing as karma. There's no such thing as fate. There's no such thing as destiny. There is plausibility, probability, and actuality, and everything else is just lazy math. Okay? You get what you get because you're fucking awesome. You don't get what you get because of destiny. You think that you're supposed to have some... Your mommy's like, oh, you'll find someone out there who's special for you. What about the kids who were born with spina bifida? What's special for them? How about the kids who don't even live to be 6 who grow up in Africa? Where's their true love? Go fuck yourself. Just because you were born in North America in the fucking 21st century, you're so lucky. Fate has nothing to do with it. You were just a statistical probability. That's all that happened. You happen to be born in the wealthiest country in history at the wealthiest time in history when we had things like space travel and antibiotics. So get the fuck over yourself. Okay? You could have been born without a leg. You could have been born blind. There's a bunch of things that could have happened to you that didn't happen to you. And you know what those people don't get? They don't get their fairy tale ending. They don't get to meet their true love. None of that shit happens for them. But it's supposed to happen for you because your mommy told you were fucking special. You're not special. None of you listen to this. None of you are special. There's no karma. When a really hot girl breaks up with you, you know what happens? Her life's awesome. She just goes off and meets another guy. Her life doesn't suck. Karma doesn't step on her and make her life suck. No, there's always going to be another guy there for her. I'm sorry, karma is not real. It isn't. Now, individually, is karma real? Yes. If I do things for good people, do they do things good for me? Yes, they do. But that's an actual tacit thing. That's not some cosmic event. Okay? And this is I believe in God. I'm not even an atheist. This probably blows your mind. And I don't, but that's the thing I'm trying to tell you guys. You kill what you eat. Awesome shit happens to you because you do awesome shit. That's it. That's all there is. There is nothing else. You do the best you can for the fucking 80 years you're on this planet, and then you die. And that's it. Okay? And then all the people, you just forget. Oh, my life sucks. Man, you know what sucks? Living in the 17th century. That sucks. Being a slave in this country for 450 years. That sucks. You want to talk about stuff that sucks? That sucks. Don't sit there and talk about, oh, I'm a victim. You understand what I'm saying? It's crazy to me. It's crazy. Like, you have no excuse to be unhappy or to not take action, man. And you don't deserve shit.
That was fucking great. For all the people listening, like, if you could give, like, one last piece of wisdom, like 60 to 90 seconds, like, last thing like you would ever say, and you would leave this world, what would you say?
If you, and this is going to sound the opposite of the karma thing I said, but if you just built a life where you did things for people and asked for nothing in return, you're going to find, like, this is kind of a weird metaphor, but like almost a lubrication where you just flow through life incredibly easily, and everyone's there to do favors for you, and life is just way easier when you do that. You can sleep at night. When you underpromise, over-deliver for people, it's easy to sleep at night. When you don't lie to people, when you don't avoid conflict with people, or you don't avoid conversations with people that create conflict, when you can talk to people directly, you avoid passive-aggressive type of communication, and you can find a bunch of mentors in real life or in books. It's a way better life when you're just learning all the time, and when learning is part of the journey to happiness rather than the completion to where, oh, now I have the $10 billion and the hot girlfriend. No, the journey to getting there is you're never going to get to do that journey again. So appreciate this journey while you're on your way to success, because you're going to look back and there's going to be a part of you that's like, man, I was really happy back then and I didn't even realize it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you, Michael?
Everything is Michael Sartain, literally, just one word, Michael Sartain. It's MichaelSartain on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Pinterest, Tumblr, TikTok. It's actually Michael J. Sartain because some moron stole my name. Everything it's Michael Sartain. In fact, my website is michaelsartain.com.
Yeah, but right. Thank you for coming on, Michael. I really appreciate your time. You're fucking badass, and I respect your work.
I appreciate it, man. Awesome.
Peace out, guys.
This is the Gem Podcast, and this is Kwok.